And now, our feature presentation.
You are watching a master at work.
What's up, Raider Nation? Rafucho in the building, and welcome everybody to a special episode of Silver and Black Experience. No drama, no BS, no clickbait, no filter, just Raiders, baby. And after the whole draft week madness in Detroit, Michigan, we had a special guest right in the building. So we're gonna draft this. So it's gonna be like a short episode because we gotta to debate this fight, and of course to talk about for the draft class of 2024 for Las Vegas Raiders for the season 2024-2025 season. Who got the best, the worst, the underrated, also really got it. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege to announce to see this man right here because he's one of the part of the host with the podcast Silver and Black Today, along with Mo Mutton. And this man is so incredible right now because he had a lot of knowledge about for the Las Vegas Raiders. So, ladies and gentlemen, the man of the hour, the Mr. Scott Gulbrusen, as known as LB Gully. So, how's it going, LB Gully? Welcome to the show, Silver and Black Experience. How you feel about it?
Good, Rafucho. Good to see you, man. I appreciate being invited to come on and talk a little bit about what the Raiders were able to do last week.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so this is about for the draft class 2024. So let's see about for the first topic right now, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so first and foremost, we had the Raiders draft class of 2024. We got the best, and of course, we got the worst. Because right now, the Raiders just select just like the big monsters right now. So first, they just got Brock Bowers, the best tight end for college football in Georgia. Also, they got Jackson Bowers Johnson from Oregon. Also, they got DJ Glass in the round number 3, the Camion Richardson. Also, they just got Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State. Also, they just got through another one, which is very important, which is Dylan Love, a running back, which is from New Hampshire. Also, Tree Taylor, a safety for Air Force. And, of course, they got MJ Devonshire, which is from Pittsburgh. And what can I tell about it? This is like one of the excited classes. And I think for the first time, Tom Telesco, he didn't screw up that once because right now it's about defense and the offense. So first, Brock Bowers, it became a humongous beast because we just got the best of the best. Back to back, because remember the last time we just drafted a tight end for Notre Dame, which is Michael Mayer. I mean, that was really huge. And then we just got Jackson Bowers Johnson, which is a powerful monster center and guard from Oregon State. And look at it for the Camion Richardson. He has a speed monster from Mississippi State. Also, they got Tommy Eichenberg, which, as a matter of fact, during the display Ohio State, he broke twice, and he's still playing as an MF because it just reminded it's like Robert Spillane doing like the same thing with the New York Nets. But I think that the combination is going to be so really explosive. So I got to tell you for this one, who got the best, who got the worst pick, and of course, who got the underrated gem of the draft class 2024 of the Raiders, besides for the head for the 2024-2025 season.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at this class, and I think there were a couple guys that are interesting because I think they're players that might need a little more development, but the raw talent is there, and I think that's real important to mention because I think with the Raiders, yes, you had immediate needs you needed to draft for, i.e. Jackson Powers Johnson, or as now we're calling him JPJ. That was something they had to do. They had to fix that right side of the offensive line, bolster it. They still need to add some depth there, which I think they'll do in free agency. But you look at what they were able to do, and you like this class, and you like the way they methodically went about drafting. Nobody here was a Cleve Farrell, right? Number 4 overall, of course, from a couple years ago, where you're like, what? What did they do here? Instead, the only surprise to me was Brock Bowers. It was a surprise, but not a bad one, right, Captain? It was like, hey, we weren't expecting a tight end there, but when you think about it, because as you mentioned in the intro, Michael Mayer last year, a second-round pick, so why would you go get a tight end? Well, Brock Bowers is not just a regular tight end. He's a guy who can line up in the slot. He can line up outside, and he catches everything. Michael Mayer, also a pass-catching tight end, But Michael Mayer is much more of a traditional tight end, where Brock Bowers is a guy who can, again, line up at wide receiver for you if you had to. And so I think getting him and going with the best player available, or BPA, as we say, in that first round was the right thing to do, because yes, they needed offensive line help, but it was a very deep draft. And look what they were able to do, is get one of the best players on the offensive line in the draft with Jackson Powers Johnson. So you look at that and you think like that, wow, okay. Then they go DJ Glaze. This is one I thought in the third round. I think they could have got him later, but let's face it, if you like a guy and you think he's going to be a player for you for a long time, you go ahead and take him. Same with DeCameron Richardson. Guy has all the raw ability. He's got to, I think, focus on some things that the Raiders are going to have to do. But you know what? You trust in your coaching staff, Patrick Graham's defense, and what he's been able to do with the players on that squad since last year is pretty remarkable. One of my favorite guys, you mentioned him, Tommy Eichenberg. Listen, Tommy Eichenberg is a Raider, just like Jackson Powers Johnson. They have that mean streak. And you mentioned Robert Spillane, some similarities there for sure. He's not the most athletic guy, Eichenberg, but what he is a constant motor. He does not miss tackles. That's why he was a captain at Ohio State for 2 straight years. So you look at what he's going to be able to do in that defense. And they needed help at linebacker, so they get that. And then Dylan Lobby, running back, he's a guy I like too, Captain, because if you look at what the Raiders have now with Zamir White, we've said goodbye to Josh Jacobs. They're going to have a couple different running backs. And what Dylan Lobby does, Dylan is a player who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think you have a third down back here where you can set Luke Getsy can come out with different looks and different sets. And with the quarterback situation in Las Vegas, you're able to dump the ball off to Lobby on those plays. So that's good. And then my gem, I think the guy – MJ Devonshire is a great player, and I think that he was a guy that should have been drafted higher. But Trey Taylor from Air Force at safety, this is a kid who won the Jim Thorpe Award last year, coming out of the Air Force Academy. So you know he's going to be very, very disciplined and mature. And so I think you look at this, and the only thing missing from this class, right, was a quarterback, and we could talk about that later. But that's okay, because with Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, they're going to roll with those two guys and see what they're able to do. But overall, this class, you know, it to me is a very, very good class. I'm not going to give it an A. I'm going to give it like a B plus-ish if I had to give it a grade. But boy, you can't look at any of these picks and say, what were they thinking? Instead, you can say, no, this fits in line with what they need to do to make this team better on offense and then continue to build depth and do more on defense.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Telesco has built it like a well-rounded team with depth. I mean, it's a good enough team that you can block and play whatever the quarterback would put out there. I mean, Bowers and Jackson Powers increased the chances that we're getting building a bowling offense. I mean, that was like he did like a great job, because no one had to predict the 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. And we didn't draft a quarterback, which is totally insane. But right now, there's definitely multiple ways to build it out for the team. I mean, that's way like about the draft, the playoff. I think that was like the best of trope. I mean, they gotta push hard for the top quarterbacks that you believe that it doesn't work with, because they gotta stay patient and build enough for the team. So, what are they going to find the franchise quarterback he set up for success? I mean, it was really wild, because people are saying they're getting quarterbacks, so they should be, because they should have drafted Bo Nix over Brock Bowers. That would be good. I mean, there's a lot of fans that say, we got to draft JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, or Michael Penix Jr., but we just got like 2 quarterbacks. The first one, which is Aiden O'Connell, and the other one, which is Gardner Minshew, as known as the little ass boy, the guard dog, you know what I mean? But yes, I mean, it's very similar, because outside for the top 6, there wasn't like another one drafted in the 5th. I mean, doesn't it make any sense for the wish another one? Because who would have thought they had something in common was so beneficial to a team that it caused all the attention? I mean, after they just drafted all the quarterbacks, I mean, well, that's very crazy, because right now it seems that we had to focus around for the defense and the offense. I mean, there are some great picks, including from Brock Bowers. I've been seeing like a tight end from Georgia football. I mean, he's very similar to George Kittle. But Brock Bowers is just like a really good monster. And for Jackson Powers Johnson, I just watched him between of the game of the Pac-12 championship between Washington versus Oregon, and boy, that was just like a great combination on the field, and he knows it about stepping it down as a base at the red zone. And for the Decamio Richardson, I just saw about for the NFL Combine. Dude, he
Mhm.
just like a speed monster, and I just really think that that was like there's a lot multiple ways to get the building in this one because that's just like a great strategy. Fortify a roster over chasing quarterbacks. So that's Tom Telesco. They just wanted fortify the roster, not only for the defense and the offense, over chasing quarterbacks. That's a brilliant idea for Tom Telesco. And I know he has a lot of experience. So after the several years, the dealing with some back pits over the past, I mean, Tom Telesco is very cooking it all. So I will not say it because it's going to be bad, it's going to be good, but I think that Tom Telesco do a terrific job because right now, first and foremost, the defense, all the bets on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're right about them not chasing a quarterback because, listen, we know they tried to move up because they wanted Jaden Daniels, obviously his history with Antonio Pierce at Arizona State. And that was the guy they wanted, and they couldn't get him, right? So instead of panicking and trying to trade up and get another quarterback, they did the next best thing, which was their plan B, which is okay, let's strengthen the rest of the team, and then we can worry about quarterback later. Now, you say, hey, look, you look at this Raiders team, look, at minimum, I'm thinking a 10-win team, so they could be on the verge of the playoffs next year, as long as O'Connell or Minshew, whoever wins that job, can play effectively. So then what you do is you're building this team and you're building depth so that next year you can say, hey, if we make the playoffs with two quarterbacks who aren't necessarily franchise quarterbacks, then guess what you can do next year? You can go all in and go get your quarterback, whether that's in free agency or whether that's moving up in the draft and getting a young guy. So I think you're right there. I think they didn't do that. They showed restraint. And I know that was a shock for many in Raider Nation because the Raiders often have in the draft reached and traded away capital for players that you said to yourself, why are they doing that? This time they did not do that. And I think that is important because you have an experienced guy. I'm not saying Tom Telesco was perfect when he was the Chargers general manager, but he certainly is experienced. He had been through it before. He looked at the needs. He obviously had a staff, a training staff who was experienced too and had been in the Raider building. And so to me, they were really smart with what they did. They stayed true to what they wanted to do and the needs they had while also bringing on a player like Bowers. So you got to give them credit and understand that they're trying to build it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they just got like a breaking strategy. I mean, they was doing like the necessary. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be like it because right now it is time to get the opportunity. I mean, between for the roster and of course the new inclusions. I mean, between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connor, will do get enough to get us to the playoffs because after the whole fiasco that they just had, Josh Siegler and of course Josh McDaniels, Dave
Mm-hmm.
Siegler. I mean, I was very confused about those names because after the whole fiasco, including for Jimmy Garoppolo, now it's about get
Yeah.
time to get to work because we
Yeah.
need a lot of more discipline, more work, and of course, much aggression on the football. Because remember what you see at the game between Raiders versus Chargers, that was just like
Mm-hmm.
a great statement. Versus Giants, also another big statement. Also versus Jets, another big statement. And of course, we just beat against the Chiefs on Christmas Day, which is like the perfect Christmas present ever. We just see a lot of this. I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing that can run about it. I mean, it's all about the get time because I have a feeling that this season, this year, it could be like so many surprises right here. Because after we just get eliminated at 31 December, before one day to go for the new year and all this stuff because it probably there's no doubt that we can do with everything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
expect the unexpected because after we just drafted the most incredible players, the best available, the number one, including for Gardner Minshew, also which is signing now for Gallup, which is our wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, there's nothing can stop it. I mean, the whole defense and the offense. I mean, they're about to get ready to work. And she got a little things about for the competition, about for the conference, because right now Los Angeles Chargers just got Jim Harbaugh, which is the Detroit, Michigan. And of course, we got that Kansas City Chiefs with along with Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick and Denver Broncos. I mean, there's a lot of competition on that the conference. But right now, it seems to say Raiders, let's go to work and let's beat the competition because it's about to get 100% very short, 100% pure energy, and of course, 100% extreme attitude on the field.
Yeah, and I think that was important, and that's the one thing you saw consistently too was these players that were drafted from a personality standpoint, right? From a play style standpoint, they fit the mold that we had heard Antonio Pierce talking about in the month leading up to the draft, from the combine through the draft, and the same with Tom Telesco. He said, "Look, we know what kind of player, what kind of person Antonio Pierce wants here to do what he wants to do to be successful as the Raiders head coach." And they did that. All of these guys are tough guys. I mean, you talk about Jackson Powers Johnson. He's a mauler. You talk about Tommy Eichenberg. Same thing. Trey Taylor. All these guys, they have that mentality, and it's very important because there are talented players who might not fit into a certain culture, right? But the Raiders culture that they're building, they wanted to draft players that fit that culture. Of course, they have to be talented and they have to be able to fill the roles they need them to fill. But I think that is one of the things that sometimes goes underrated because people feel like, well, that person's the best at this, but they're not the best at this. It doesn't matter because you can see, like you saw, you brought up Robert Spillane. And when Robert Spillane was signed by the Raiders, I was not that impressed because I looked at his highlights from Pittsburgh and he was like, okay, no big deal. But then he came to Las Vegas and they got the most out of him and he had his best season ever. So I think that says a lot for the coaching staff on the defensive side. His position coach was Antonio Pierce, remember? So I think that what they've done with defense in garnering depth, getting more depth there, and then addressing the offense, because let's face it, the Raiders were 23rd in offense last year in scoring. They needed help on offense. We had talked about on our show that we thought that they would go after the third or fourth round for a wide receiver. Instead, they get Brock Bowers in the first round, who's a guy who's just as good as having a wide receiver. And then, like you said, they signed Joey Gallo today, and that is a good signing for them because he had that knee injury. He came back. He wasn't like he was before, but as we know from those knee injuries, especially with speed guys, it takes a little bit of time to come back. So the Raiders have not, I don't think, a lot of people aren't going to sit there and talk about, wow, they had the best draft class in the NFL. Doesn't matter. What they did do was address what they need to do and really get better in every facet of the roster. And they're not done either, right? Like I said, they're going to get more depth, I think, on the offensive line with free agency. I think they'll sign even another veteran running back to have better competition in camp. So I like what they're doing, and I think that the draft it was nice. As one fan DM'd me during the draft, he said, "I feel like there's adults in the room, right?" And so that was good to see from the Raiders, and I think it sets them up for a great training camp coming July.
I mean, I think it's gonna be because also there's like a lot of good chance whether they're gonna roll with Aiden or like in another stop because if doesn't happen like in anyone because we've been seeing like teams, we've been seeing a lot of competition when it comes to who's rise, who falls come spring. I mean, if they're gonna have it at this one because let's take it for another example. If AOC balls out, then obviously it's gonna be the starter next year.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're gonna be like the battle between who's gonna be like the starter quarterback between Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connor. So I think it's gonna be like something is mildly shows promise, but the priority is still that because if they want a different type of quarterback, if you look at that, I mean, give it like another shot if they can want for a different skill set. If you're not gonna give it this one, but I think it's getting the manager between natural or training up. But I think the only reason right now we just wanted to get like overall it's gonna be like the first round or 10-1, but I think it's something about the important because how we in a different predicament are about this year. So it's gonna be so loaded. Also, the tight end room is gonna be loaded with great inclusion, which is Michael Mayer, also Brock Bowers. I mean, there's a lot of explosion of that defense, and we're about to get scary. Because before that, we just being like the laughing stock. But right now, we had the most scarier teams. out of the conference right now, because we just see like a lot of monsters in that one, including for those beasts like Jackson Powers Johnson and Brock Bowers. I mean, there's nothing can stop. And I mean, this whole defense is gonna be like building out at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the chess game that you have to play, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, you have to play short term and long term at the same time, right? So you want the short term needs fulfilled. You want to get those players on the field so that you're competitive. And again, the Raiders really, I mean, 2 more wins next year, and they're right in the middle of the playoff hunt as well. Maybe even 1, depending what happened in the rest of the league. So they're not that far away. And I think that the signing of Minshew, you mentioned him, I think that was big because the Raiders knew sitting at 13 in the draft to try to move up to get a quarterback in a class like it was going to be hard. It was going to be very, very hard for them to do that. So they said, okay, well, let's go sign a guy who had the Colts 1 game away. It was the last game of the season that he lost to Houston. Had they won that game, Gardner Minshew would have taken them into the playoffs. So you have a guy there who can do that for you. And then you got the young guy in Aiden O'Connell who can win games. Yes, he's sort of a bit of a statue in the pocket, but that's okay. You just built up your offensive line. You now have a great tight end and 2 good tight ends to be able to dump the ball off and buy the quarterback time. So I think when you look at that, you say to yourself, okay, so yes, they need to address the quarterback position at some point, but they've built the defense to a point where it should be really, really good. And then the offense is going to get better, and you've given the quarterbacks more weapons. So whoever wins out, the Raiders shouldn't be in the bottom half of the league in offense next year. They should make a nice surge there. And that's really going to be up to the new offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. He's going to, I think there's a lot of pressure on him to effectively use the weapons he has. You have Devontae Adams, you have Trey Tucker, now you have Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. It's going to be up to him to make sure that he's calling the plays, that he comes up with game plans that utilizes the best weapons that they have so that they have the best chance of winning.
Yeah, that's exactly. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, that is for this special episode. It's going to be like really short, but it was fantastic to talk about for this topic, which is like the best and the worst draft picks on the 2024 Raiders class. I mean, that was absolutely incredible. So I got to tell you, Mr. Scott Gabrosen, where can we find you on the social media and where the people can hear you about for your podcast, Civil and Black Today, along with Mo Motum?
Sure, absolutely. You can follow me on x.com. I'm at LV Gully, Gully. The show is at SNB Today. You can find the show from an audio perspective. We're an Odyssey Sports original podcast. You can find it wherever you get your audio. So wherever you like to get podcasts, you will find it there. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can go subscribe to the YouTube channel there too. The show's up as well the same day that it's released on audio. So yeah, we appreciate that, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about this draft class with you, and appreciate everybody for watching.
Yeah, that's exactly. And my name is Rafael Chessin, as known as El Capitán Rafucho. Also, you can subscribe me on YouTube, El Capitán Rafucho. So you can click up there, El Capitán Rafucho. You can type it, and boom, there's live streams, videos, reactions, and more. Also, you can hit the like button, ring the bell for notifications, and follow me on different social media. On Twitter, at Capitán Rafucho, Instagram, at El Capitán Rafucho. Also, you can follow me on Rumble. So that's it for this special episode, talking about for the draft on Silver and Black Experience. So I just wanted to tell you, thank you, everybody. And of course, we're going to say goodbye to everything. So thank you very much, Scott Gilbertson, as known as LB Gully, for Silver and Black today. Today's amazing point of view about for the draft class of 2024 for Las Vegas Raiders. This is Rafael Chessin, as known as El Capitán Rafucho, Raf in the building, and I will tell for this one. Have a great day. Have a great Tuesday. And of course, I got to tell you, just like Al Davis say, just win, baby. We're out of here.